This episode brought to you by Halver Travel.
Welcome to Raw and Refined, the Gentleman's Hour, where we're going to have conversation with middle-aged black men about what's going on. We welcome you to listen, comment, and like, and hopefully encourage others to join for future conversations as well. We always like to start off with a toast, and with that toast, it's because we are gentlemen and we do it raw and refined.
So today's beverage choice is a beer. We're talking about travel and leisure. So, it's always nice when you're traveling or during some leisure time to have a nice cold brew. So I chose for my beer Tsingtao, the imported premium lager. It's an Asian brew. I want to say it's Chinese, but I don't know for sure. But I've been drinking Tsingtao for years. I like Tsingtao and I like Sapporo. I don't know if you ever had that one. That's a Japanese one.
Chef. Yeah.
Yeah, but so for me today, I'm having a Tsingtao.
Okay. Well, I'll go next then. I'm rocking the Corona Extra smooth but light brew from Mexico. I'll say it's close to my heritage, being part Belizean. I don't know if there's a Belizean beer. I got to find out and see
I'm
if
sure
there
there
is.
Yeah,
Type
everybody's
deal.
got a local beer. So
Got a
is.
local something, so I might have to check that out. As it relates to raw and refined, I think Corona does explain that as well.
Awesome. Well, my beer drinking days have declined dramatically. I used to be Mr. IPA all the time. The stronger, the better. But I kind of got off that a little bit. But there is a really good beer still, that Belgian beer that, still gets the job done. And I think everybody knows Stella Artois. And I find it to be refreshing. And yeah, when I have a beer, I have a Stella.
that's my usual out in the streets. When if I'm somewhere and I'm ordering a beer at a bar or a restaurant, I'm usually
Uh-huh.
asking if they got a Stella.
Yep, it's a good call.
That's it.
So you kind of previewed it a little bit, but this episode is going to be about travel and leisure. And, we make the argument that travel and leisure really is an antidote to some of life's challenges. Travel for me personally really is incredibly important. And I don't care if I'm traveling to, Indiana, but moving from current scenery to another scenery, even if it's for a short period of time, I have found really improves, my state of mind, relaxing. It forces me to see something different. And it really, I think as I've gotten older, really make me appreciate traveling even more. Just seeing how other people move and like other people, other cultures interact with each other. For me, traveling is everything. And, it relaxes me, but, just moving from one place to another, I have found, but then coming back, uh, I have found has made me appreciate what I'm coming back to.
That
Even
reflection
more.
piece.
Yep. So, John,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your own experience with travel.
Yeah, I have to agree that traveling has become a relaxation for me. It doesn't feel like it's a job. I love to go now. I love to go different places. And as you said, it doesn't have to be that I'm going across the states or into a new country or anything like that. It's seeing something different, feeling the difference of that new area, be it the weather, be it the food, be it the atmosphere of people around and the culture as well, man. I'd like to go now, and I'm blessed that I can. I think we all have that ability that we can go, and do things as well, which makes it good. I'll admit that something new for me is hopping on the train.
Hmm.
So I've actually taken a train trip up to the DC area from where I am, and it was fun. It was relaxing. It was fun. Actually had some conversation with people on there as well. But something more that I may want to explore as well besides just air travel. I'll say that driving in a car not as enjoyable for me these days. I give you a good 2.5, and my max is definitely about 5, but I
Yeah.
will hop on a plane in a second.
Yeah, longer than a 5-hour drive is, I'm trying to see, is there an airport close by that we
Yep.
could just fly to? or something like that, the long
Right.
driving. But my first train ride was my freshman year in college, going up to Howard, coming up there to see you for
Yep.
spring
Yep.
break. I took that train ride from Chicago to DC. That was my first long train ride. That was a fun trip. I was by myself, so it
Uh-huh.
was interesting. Like some stories I could tell at another time off the podcast about that one. But this notion of cultural and heritage travel is kind of something I'd like to touch on a little bit, is this notion of, going places where you can, see and connect with history and with culture, and seeing places, historic places, understanding our own history, other people's history. And so having a chance to, go and eat other people's food,
Mhm.
and things like that. I think food and culture are so connected. So for me personally, you get to know people by their food. So sitting with them, going places and sitting with them and eating what they eat. I don't like going places and eating, American food or chain food.
Right.
When I go somewhere, I want to eat what they're eating.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Mm.
agree with you there too, Rich. Just if you go on someplace, I ain't going there to go get McDonald's. I'm going there to see what the locals are having and enjoy that aspect of their culture as well.
I
Mhm.
would make I completely agree with you, but for one small little caveat, I consider New Orleans to be
Mm.
kind of like one of those places. My dad's folks are from there, and it's my favorite place in the U.S., one of my favorite places in the world, in large part because of the food, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's kind of seems sacrilegious to say, but the Popeyes in New
Mhm.
Orleans ain't
Mhm.
like Popeyes
Nope.
elsewhere.
It's a different level. It's a different level.
Yeah.
You
Well,
right?
that's where Popeyes came from, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
the Popeyes in New Orleans is making New Orleans fried chicken, not
Mhm.
making Popeyes,
On
chain chicken.
47th Street.
Right.
Right. Right. So
Right.
yeah, that's a notable exception. Yeah. So have either of you, what in terms of cultural and heritage travel, where have you been? Tell me about some place you've been where, there you were able to get that ancestral connection, that, or something like that, that connection backwards in history
Yeah,
or in time.
yeah. For me, it's Ghana for sure. To Ghana in 2019, and was a life changing, experience. I had been on the continent before, but never to West Africa. I went to Morocco, which was fine, but there was something about going to Ghana, the reception that we got, the welcoming nature of everything, the familiarity of the food and the people and the music, and then of course visiting, some of the old slavery, places, from the slave river, something I had never even heard of before, right? To meeting actually on the Atlantic where people were, boarding ships for the transatlantic straight slave trade. That was a life changing experience going to Ghana for those reasons and for so many more. And I haven't been the same since that trip.
That's outstanding. Yeah, you two probably have done more world traveling, I'll say, than I've probably have, especially recent years. But to say that is, I definitely want to make a trek to Western Africa. I want to make a trip to Belize as well. But I've been to, Aruba, which is a place that is always just wonderful for me to see that culture there, to see the friendliness of a space where there's not much there. You know what I mean? The people are friendly, they're nice, they're cordial, yet they don't have a lot, but yet they're happy. And I love that. And I go back often with family and everything. It's just a great, relaxing experience. But going to Charleston, South Carolina has been, I would say, similar to that cultural experience, though, to see where our people have come in to this nation and to feel the different culture and the food. Man, Charleston is a wonderful food place too, but to walk the streets of history there is just, you feel something different when you're there as well. And I agree with you. New Orleans, man, I love food in New Orleans. It's a lot of history in New Orleans, man, and the people and all that they went through, even through hurricanes and natural disasters and things of that nature as well. Yet they still try to be positive. They still Mardi Gras. going on, and they still try to make it fun. And here recently, unfortunately, that the death of those people from the guy that was driving the truck, here recently
Down
in New
there. Oh,
Orleans,
yeah.
the tragedies
Hmm.
there as well. So they're resilient people. And I think it's again, it's seeing the culture, seeing how people rebound from adversity and these situations of life as well.
Yeah. I think the most profound travel experience I've had was our trip to South Africa, which was around 2013. Blessed to be over there for about 2 weeks because we were visiting friends who worked for the
Mm.
US government at the time, and so they were over there. I had been living there for a few years, so we were blessed to be there and stay with them in the capital, Pretoria. And one of the friends was not working, so she was able to plan our 2 weeks. We got to see so much of South Africa. We went to Johannesburg. We spent time at Sun City. We stayed in Pretoria. We went on safari, did all of that kind of stuff. Just ate a lot of great food, had a wonderful experience. Really, I even got to visit the Supreme Court in South Africa. It was there
Oh
in
wow.
Johannesburg. So as a lawyer, for me, that was incredible to see and to hear how they built their constitution and the things that they did post apartheid to rebuild, to reconcile, despite the current challenges they're facing because of our current administration and all of that. But again, you were talking resilience, getting to to visit the cradle of humanity. I mean, we're literally crawling through caves and stuff like that to see where some of the first, Homo sapiens were found. It
Wow.
was it was a really cool experience. So much to see, a place that was being run by Black people. Of course, there are challenges
Mm.
that always come with that too. But for me too, personally, I think one of the most profound parts of it was literally as soon as we got off the plane in South Africa, all of a sudden, and you guys have known me for my whole life and have known that I've always had dry skin issues, right?
Hmm.
Literally, as soon as we got off the plane in South Africa, all of a sudden I had moisture in my face, right?
Wow.
My body was like,
Wow.
hey, this is where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be in the motherland. Everything just started working better. Right. We were there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
We were only sleeping about 3, 4 hours a night because we were trying to kick it so hard, drinking about a bottle of wine each a night, never hungover, never tired. Body was just like, this is where you're supposed to be. It was like, when the motherland, when the ship gets there, settles down, Independence Day, and when that the ship landed out, all these other systems started working. Everything just
Wow.
connected to the mothership. It
Right.
started working better. It just seemed like everything worked so much more effectively.
That's amazing, man.
It's amazing. That
John,
is
have you
amazing.
done any group travel
Oh yeah.
besides
Yeah, yeah,
us? I know
yeah.
the three of us, we went to that concert in North
Went to
Carolina, but
Durham.
Yep,
hmm
yep, yep. To Durham for that. So yeah, man, this is something I've talked to you guys about a while that we need to do
hmm
more of that. But I've got what I my HU crew, my Howard crew, and we've been also trying to make sure that we do something together at least once a year. And if it
hmm
happens a couple times, then excellent. But man, that's needed, bros. That's why I'm trying to get that with you guys as well
hmm
because when we go on those trips, out of the troubles or stress or weight that I may be feeling up to that point.
hmm
Once we get to wherever our destination leads us, man, everything's lifted. It's good. We're there. We're having a great time. We're having fun. We're talking. We're having real conversations too. But then we're walking. We've been to Vegas and did some hiking in the desert out there. Man, it was hot as I don't know what. Oh my gosh. That was a trip, but but we did it. We had a great time. But group travel to me has been excellent. We've gone on cruises together to Caribbean islands and stuff, and it's a great time, brothers. I don't know if you guys have been doing some of that with others as well, but I know when we did it, we went to that music festival in Durham, man, that was absolutely great, man. And it's refreshing. It's just something that helps with your soul, man. It helps mentally, physically when you're able to go enjoy experiences together. It's one thing traveling by yourself. It's another thing when you're traveling with family, and then there's yet
Yeah.
another thing when you're traveling with just your friends. Again, family is family, but friends are those that you choose to be around too. Not to say you didn't choose your family, but your family is chosen for you in some aspects as well. But, and each one brings its own kind of atmosphere or whatever to that as well. But yeah, the group trips have always been wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had the chance to go on it with a fairly big group back in 2023, I think it was. Or yeah, we went to Paris. A group of us
Mm.
went to Paris to watch a Bulls game. The Bulls were playing the
Oh,
Pistons
yeah.
over there
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
Paris. So that was, I want to say February of 23 or something like that. And a friend of mine had put this group together. She reached out to me. She lives in the DC area, but she was like, "Hey, I'm putting together a group. We're going to," she was like, "Did you know the Bulls were playing in Paris in January?" This was like October. And I was like, I guess as soon as they put the schedules out, the Paris games, so she started working on a group. Hollered at the missus, "Hey, you want to go check out the Bulls in Paris?" Of course. And so it was probably a group of about 20 people. I knew maybe six or seven of the people beforehand. So there were a number of people we were meeting. One of the people that was on the trip was somebody I grew up a couple blocks away from, went to grammar school and high school with, hadn't really seen her much then. And then, we're in the airport in Paris. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, check you out," So she was part of that same group. Different people were connected from different ways, and including some people from the West Coast. So we had people flying in from Chicagoland and from other parts of the US, and we all met up in Paris. And so that was a fun experience because we basically brought the party with us.
Hmm.
Have you ever gone on a trip
Right.
and been like, "Man, this would have been so much fun if we had,
Yeah.
so
Cruise.
and
Yes.
so." We've
Yes.
got my wife and I have a group of a pair of friends that we've traveled with quite a bit, gone on a lot of trips with them. And so, they're the first ones that come to mind because we're like, okay, this will be fun with them. Or, we kind of have them pre-programmed in, but this was really cool. We ended up taking over a jazz club one night while we were in Paris because we were so deep. We just went in there. Actually, one of the people in the group was a singer, and she was going to get on the mic at one point. But
Uh-huh.
we just had a blast. I mean, the game was almost secondary because we were there for about
Uh-huh.
5 days. That one was super cool because we ran into some family over there, hung out with Miles Morgan and Heather, while
Uh-huh.
we were over there. So that was so cool getting to see people, from home over there that wasn't part of this. But then taking back to that cultural travel piece, we learned so much about Black folks in Paris while we were there. We took a Black Paris tour, and this brother that was local there took us to all these different spots, all these different places, and talked to us about Black culture and Black history in Paris and how influential Black folks were to the development of France and France's culture and all of that. So that was a real cool like bonus that came out of this. But again, it was group travel, and it was a lot of people we didn't already know, and we had a blast.
Hmm. But yeah, I love the story, man, because that also reminded me when we were on the cruise going to the Caribbean. We did like a 3-day cruise with a group. It was one of our friends' 50th birthday party, or 55th, had to be their 55th birthday party. And so we all like, yeah, let's go. So we all, couples went and everything, had a great time. But like that, we took over the bar area. We were karaokeing up in there, dancing and, all of that type deal. And then we went to the private island. We kind of had our own little section of that space there and just, swam, laughed, played our music, had house music going on up in there and dancing and everything. And just that experience, meeting new folks, as well. It's just something uplifting about all of that, man. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the friendships piece of the group travel, there's two sides to it. It's traveling with friends, and then it's making new friends while traveling.
Mhm.
One of the fun things about that Paris trip was some of the people that we were hanging out kicking it with, we developed real connections with them. Like, these are some cool
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
Sometimes you meet people in a travel context and they're fun people while you're on that trip, but others are just, good people that you meet that you want to continue that relationship with beyond the trip. So I know, like, my
Mhm.
wife became really good friends with one of the sisters that we all met and were hanging out with on the trip, and that was
Mhm.
2 years ago, and they're still, in touch, and they're on different sides of the country. She's in California, and
Mhm.
we're in the Midwest,
Mhm.
but they created a friendship out of that trip. You know, we hung out for just a couple of days, and all of a sudden now, you know, they're good friends because that
Mhm.
energy. You know, you connect with people. It doesn't take long for you to, you know, to find those people whose vibrations are similar. You know, and you're like, oh
Hmm.
wow, okay, you know, and you want to kind of push that and pursue that so you can create those relationships. You know, just from a trip. That's what I think is really cool.
Yeah, that happened with Allison on this one because she really hadn't had an opportunity to really know some of the folks and families and stuff, and that built some new connections and friendships there as well. So I agree.
Well, one of my favorite group trip ever, and unfortunately, you all weren't able to make it, but
Mm.
it was my wedding. Got married in Jamaica, and we took a group of folks down, and that was a phenomenal experience. In part because we were able to travel around the island. So, you know, we were in Mobay, went to Rios, we went to the grill. Shout out to Heather for for coordinating everything. But, you know, we had a bunch of people come from Chicago. And then on top of it, her Jamaican family was around and came.
Hmm.
So it was a full experience. You know, you get to move around the island and, yeah, 25 years ago now. But that was
Hmm.
Wow.
my favorite.
Yep.
That was dope. I wish I had made that trip.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. Me too. It was memorable.
I know.
So, Greg, in keeping with this theme of finding community and connection in the diaspora, I just wanted to say that word. Talk about the
Mhm.
role of travel in breaking stereotypes and expanding perspectives.
Well, for me, traveling is as much as anything else a cultural experience. And so I've found that it really has changed my life and particularly as a Black American. Going to places has really opened up to how much of the world really has a perception of Black Americans that has done nothing but make me even more proud, despite, the images cast about us. Very curious about what it means to be a Black American and just the way in which our cultures similar. First trip outside of the country was to Jamaica, and going to Jamaica was a life-changing thing. And then I've been blessed to go to Colombia, and the blackest part of Colombia, Afro-Colombians, and just the curiosity and the commonalities really just was life-changing for me. But it was funny to make me realize just the uniqueness of being Black American.
I love how we speak on the diaspora. I needed to say the word myself since all of y'all got a chance to say it, so I wanted to say it as well. So when it comes to travel, it's important, and it's important for us because our bodies, our mind, our spirit really needs to be able to have a break from what I call the everyday. We need to be able to relax. We need to be able to rest. We need to be able to rejuvenate so that when we come back into our spaces, we need to be ready again. Sometimes we give so much of ourselves in our day to day lives that it's just it's expensive. Let me put it that way. It's expensive to our bodies, our minds, our spirits. And if we don't take moments where we just have to break away from it and refill that energy with good, positive energy, we're going to just falter and we're going to fall. We're going to fail. And I encourage us all to take those moments away. Whenever I'm traveling with family or with my friends, with the fellas, whatever that looks like, at the end of that travel, it's like I feel, my heart is full again. So now I'm ready. I'm ready to come back. I'm ready to try to give all that energy that's needed until the next time. But trust me, brothers, I'm still looking for next time. So I love this. I love travel. I love being able to explore as well. So I again encourage us all to make sure that we are taking those moments. It doesn't have to be a week away. It doesn't have to be a month away. It can be a couple of days. It could be just a trip to the beach or a trip to the mountains just for a day, just to again rejuvenate.
I like that. I like that. A couple of things you said just really resonate with me. one is just that the length of it, is less important as the quality of the time that you make it. This need to recharge, this need to rejuvenate oneself, and taking advantage of even small periods of time, you can, could be powerful in the way you recharge yourself. I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of nature, beaches. Like you said, you mentioned beaches, John, peaceful destinations, relaxation, and how important that is to this notion of wellness and using travel as a way to recharge our battery. There's something just really powerful about being on a beach, being near the ocean. We live or in John's case, used to live in Chicago, and Lake Michigan is so huge that, when I lived on the lakefront in South Shore, I got up every morning. I was blessed to have a condo that looked out over the water. And so I got up every morning, and that's how I looked at my day, how my day was going to go, by looking at, I called it the ocean, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's not, but it's such a huge lake that it feels like it. But getting up in the morning, when you're taking one of those vacations somewhere and you get blessed to go to an island and there's a beach there, and just to get up really early in the morning, I love to get up early enough to actually sit out there and watch the sunrise. Just be at peace with nature and watch the sunrise and listen to the current, listen to the tide. I mean, that coming in and out. It's peaceful, it's melodic, and it has that, that kind of meditative aspects to it because of that rhythmic way that it's moving, that back and forth of the tide. But taking advantage of moments to connect with nature, to be quiet and be peaceful and feel and see and hear the world around you. It can have a lot of different benefits, both spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and ultimately physically as well. When you can find your way back to connecting with the earth, it can be energizing. It can be very powerful. So take advantage of those moments to really put the whole world out for a moment. The whole world, meaning your electronics, your work, your external relationships, all of that, and just take some moments to really center yourself and sink into the actual earth. The beach can do that for you, but you got to get out there early before everybody gets out there. So it's just really, you could have you a small piece of the earth to yourself, and do that. It's really cool.
And the other aspect about that, Rich, is it's all free.
Yep.
Nature is free.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
no charge for nature.
Yep.
Well, you might have
One of
got
the
on the plane, to travel there. So
Right, how you experience it might cost you
it's,
something,
yeah, but the
but
world
nature
itself is
itself,
free.
right,
It's
is
just
free.
there. Yeah,
Right.
you know
vitamin D, is one of the best things.
Yes, sir. I
So
agree.
have you
in
ever
North
done any of the
Carolina, y'all got all that wooded stuff. I imagine that's beautiful.
Oh man, the beauty of being where we are in what y'all call the triad or central North Carolina is that
Mhm.
we have the benefit of not just our greenery, but the beaches we can go
Mm-hmm.
to, but yet the mountains that we can go to as
Mm-hmm.
well. And man, I love it. I love it. It affects my allergies to no end, but I still love it as well. So I just
Pop you
have
some
to,
Zyrtec, you'll be all
right.
right.
I just got to prep for it, and that's all. Nature, day or night, beneficial. So it's a place where you can let your mind be at peace, but your body benefits from it as well. So take advantage, whenever you can, take advantage. Be by yourself at times with it or be with someone you care about as well. But take advantage of what God has given us and use that as a strength for your continued growth as well.
GK, you ever do any spa stuff, man? Wellness retreats and whatnot, that kind of stuff?
I'm never ashamed to say the one and only actually when I got married.
Hmm.
That really is the last time. And everyone says I need to go. This is making it
Yeah.
clear to me that I need to do.
Man, every time we go to a resort or whatever, that's pretty standard. The missus and I, we're gonna end up getting a couples massage or something. Wow, when we were in South Africa, we were at Sun City. Yes, the famous Sun City. We had a wonderful time while we were there, and we got some couples massages. It was Regina and I and two of our good friends. Man, the masseuse that I had, it was incredible. I thought I was going to try and bring her home with me. Regina knew. I was like, you could come home with us. You can come home with us. We'll find a place for you. But no, seriously, like, I've had issues with my shoulders and some of those challenges along the way. It's like physical therapy. It's like physical therapy. You should take advantage of that, GK. If I mean, talk about just like, adding to your overall well being, physical ailments, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, do that, son. Yeah. I mean, you're still, I mean, I'm surprised considering how much you run that you're not one to, ever to get massages or anything like that. I told the masseuse what, I had the broken bone in the hand, broken bone in the wrist, and this and that. And she was like, so, okay, you want me to stay away from it? I was like, no. I want you to, work that too, just, work it appropriately. That and in the ocean, just being in the ocean with my
Mm,
wrist in the water, just letting the current pull it back and forth, where I was sitting in the water. It was getting in some nice physical therapy. It was allowing me to use it, but not being its normal weight, because
right.
it's in the water, buoyant and all of that. So just, more ways to take advantage of using that trip and that travel.
And I'll add to that, Rich, that so massage therapy, aromatherapy, hydrotherapy, all of that is wonderful and can be done in ways that, again, not necessarily have to be such an expense as well. So you
Right.
mentioned about getting into the water, allowing
Mm-hmm.
those waves to kind of just relax the body too, can be soothing and therapeutic. The air breeze, where it is, if you're in a floral area or if you're in the ocean air and at night, sometimes that can just be soothing in and of itself as well, and something that can be therapeutic for us there. So those are all different aspects of care that I think we all need to be considering as it relates to our general wellness and can be
Oh,
done
there's
through our
therapy in
travel.
food too.
There's therapy and
In a
food
travel
as well.
context, if you think about it really, right, especially once you've been somewhere before and you fall in love with that culture and with some of their food and how you're looking forward to going back there, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we attach memories to smells as well as to taste
Hmm.
and food and all of that. And so, that triggers those good feelings and you want to go back to those places again.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
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 That's leading us into the next topic, Rich. So keep expanding a little bit on that,
Right,
my
right.
brother.
Okay, yeah. The next topic, experiential travel, stepping outside the comfort zone. Okay. So the joy of learning something new while traveling. I can talk
Mm.
about those. Like you said, we were talking about food. I've always been a fan of the notion of eating is one of the best ways to learn about other people, learn their cultures. People open up
And
naturally.
drinking.
Yeah, eating and drinking, definitely. And those two are tied together, especially when you're eating and drinking the local stuff, right?
Yep.
You
Right.
want to go there, you want to eat their food, you want to drink their stuff. Now, I will say when we were in South Africa and we went to this, I don't know how else to describe it, a shanty town. I drank some very traditional beer. That was disgusting. It was warm and disgusting. But, I made friends in so doing.
Hmm.
So,
Kind of like old style if you come into Chicago.
right, or something. But learning, we went on a bike tour through parts of this shanty town and some other areas while we were there. And so, we learned so much. We went to this spot and learned about Nelson Mandela. I actually met his grandson. We got to hang out with his grandson. And, so it was those kind of trips where you get to not just lay on the beach, which is dope in and of itself, but go places and learn and meet people, learn about their cultures. You see the differences, but you also see how similar we are in so many ways, right? The differences are subtle. Sometimes it's language based, sometimes it's cultural based, but at the end of the day, we pretty much all want to do the same things, and we're just experiencing it the way they like to do it, which
Mhm.
is always cool, right? When once you get in and you start to hang out and meet people and they open up a little bit of what their world is, you're like, oh, this is cool. And then you start automatically comparing it to your own life and things that you naturally can see those connections, those similarities, unless you're just an asshole. And we see those people out there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just can screw up travel for everybody else.
Right.
Ugly
That's why I like to,
American.
that's why I tend to prefer when we go in those
Right.
getting off of the plane and going to the hotel to this or that. We want a private car. We're going to be on a small van.
Right.
I don't even want their energy to invade our
Mhm.
trip. you know. But yeah, the
Mhm.
opportunities to learn, the opportunities to music, especially getting to experience people's music at their crib, you being essentially as a tourist or a traveler being a fly on the wall and just kicking it their style.
Mhm.
One of the most
Yep.
fun things I did recently was when we were in Punta Cana. We were hanging out. I met up with I meet the drivers, I meet those people because I want to go places with the people that know the places, you
Mhm.
know. So while we were like, okay, we want to go get something to eat, man. Take us to
Mhm.
one of your favorite spots. He took us to this hole in the wall, you're like, oh my God, where are we going? But then before you know it, we sitting up in the spot hanging out, having drinks with some of the locals while they're on their lunch break as different people come through. It was just a great time. So getting that,
Yep.
you only get to do that when you leave home, when you get
Mhm.
away from that comfort zone.
Mhm.
And we're from Chicago, so we're blessed. Everybody's a little nervous around us, right? When you
Mhm.
say you're from Chicago, people take a step back, right? I've seen that happen in different parts of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Now, I appreciate that too. And I would say just always be safe as well. So just be mindful of your space and where you are.
Oh, as I've gotten older, I've become less adventurous, and the
Uh,
spots that
Yeah.
I go to have become safer by
right.
Yep.
default.
Because you're always thinking about what can go wrong, right?
Right.
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 And
Right.
Colombia is really close in terms of just the experience of going there and going with someone from Colombia. Like the part I went to the first time was the Northwest, getting there and experiencing the people. And I guess the little town I was in, they got word that I was there. And all these kids come and they want to practice, they want to see this American, right? Black American. And they want to practice English with me. And so they would say words and I would say them in English. Obviously I had an interpreter. And that was just one of the most fascinating experiences I've had in life.
That
I'll
sounds so
never
cool.
forget that. It was
Hmm.
cool.
That's
So
excellent.
grateful for that kind of experience that just really made me think about Colombia and Colombians in a different
Mhm.
way and like how connected we are as folks
Mhm.
in the diaspora.
Hmm.
No, this just leads to, our brains are sponges. So we take in any and everything that's going on, and then how we process it can be different depending on our experiences as well. So what I'm hearing is that as we're traveling, as we're going, as we're experiencing, try to keep that mind open to what those experiences may be. So it may be the food, it may be the culture, it may be the music, it may be the adventure, it may be the beach, it may be the pool, it may be the interactions that we have, but we need to maintain that openness as to what that is, because everything that comes in is really something that helps us grow and develop as well. Some things we're going to accept and we're going to continue to take from there and go. Some things we're going to reject and not let it be a part of who we are. And all of that's okay. But if we go in there saying, all right, I'm just going for XYZ and I miss out on ABC, DEF, then we really are missing out on a whole lot more of the whole journey and experience as well. So, if anything, whenever we're stepping out there, just make sure to just be open to the experience, absorb it, and then process. What's the good from that I want to take. What's the not so good that I want to keep away from me as well.
To say one of the things that I've learned most in traveling places is that we are very spoiled as Americans. That there's a way in which
Very spoiled.
hyper materialism is really bad for our health, but have a sense of themselves and their culture and family and all those things. And to really, like Jamaicans say, cool runnings, like take your time, no need to run. I just found that to really be helpful to me and realize that the way that we do things in the US isn't how the entire world operates. And everything isn't about what you got, right?
Mhm.
It's like it's what you do and how you operate in the world. But just
Yeah.
this need to be around things, people where things aren't so driven by superficiality and materialism has broadened.
Yeah, I
I
started
mean,
to notice that about Americans back when we first started, traveling back in college. And just the impatience was one of the things that I
mhm,
noticed, so often. And then like you mentioned Jamaica, Greg, I've been there so many times, just love that island. And again, I have a connection there or feel like that, that's where my grandfather's from, even though I've never met any of his family down there. But, just this notion of, they always say, soon come, man, soon come. It's kind of this slow down a little bit. We used to always joke and say, you don't go to a Jamaican restaurant when you're hungry. You know,
right, right,
right?
right,
You go there
right,
before you're hungry, so that you got
right.
time to hang out and kick it, and then you'll get hungry around the
Get
time
hungry
the
while
food
you're
gets there. But if you roll up in that spot hungry, with
yeah.
that American impatience, you're gonna be sitting there, stomach grumbling. What the hell? It's like and you're like, where's the food? They say, soon come, man, soon come. You know.
Right, right, right,
Cool
right,
runnings,
right,
man.
right,
Cool
right,
runnings.
right, right.
So those
Uh,
perspectives, man. Yeah.
But I think again, those are things that I feel like as Black Americans that we sort of that's in our DNA also. Like that's the culture, particularly those of us who have connections to people in the South.
mhm,
But beyond, right, the rest of the Caribbean, there's a way in which our culture, by coming into urban areas and the cities, has sort of adopted things that sort of weren't really our sort of, I won't say natural, but like sort of our historic orientation. And so I think it's really important that we get back to that
mhm,
in a sense, because I think part of what our challenge is being up north in the cities, et cetera, and like the need to be in a rush and like the
mhm.
pushing, the stress of like all of that, and how do we deal with it? Our ancestors taught us the way, you know.
Well, and that brings up one other good point. I know we're getting ready to probably wrap this up, but it made me think about what vacation is to different people. I
Hmm.
think from us, we've come to appreciate vacation as truly a moment to relax, reflect, rest, and appreciate wherever we are. But for others, they've got an agenda. They're like, we got to do A, B, C, D, E while I'm here. Rest is just something I'll do later on at home. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Then what's the vacation for? You just on a trip, but not necessarily a vacation. And I think there's a difference there that people need to just recognize that, hey, you can do that if that's what you want to do. But then you're coming back even more fatigued and tired from the trip itself because you just did not get the opportunity to rest, reflect, and
Vacation
just
from the
enjoy.
vacation, huh?
Exactly. Exactly, brother. That's it. Exactly.
That's always a challenge, depending on, especially when it's someplace you've not been before, and depending on what it is there, what you want to see. I've only been to Paris once. We went for that Bulls game. I
Hmm.
mentioned that, and while we were there, one of the things we did was a Black Paris tour, is what it was called. It was a
Mm,
walking tour of Paris, and they highlighted all kinds of things of note that were of importance. How Black people had the role they played in building Paris and building France. And it was so much that, is not taught in America. It was
hmm,
incredible, this experience. But over the course of that experience, it was about, what, 4 or 5 hours. We probably walked about 12,000, 15,000 steps over the course of
hmm,
that tour. There were certain sections where we could have taken public transportation. They had that built into the whole process. We had they got us day passes and everything, but we ended up walking through certain of those sections because of the group that we were with, who, decided, no, let's just
hmm,
keep going here, that kind of thing. So, that was not even expected. That changes, for the next couple of days, my legs are going to be kind of sore or tired from walking miles unexpectedly, versus what I might otherwise have done on a typical day. So even then, yeah, there's the potential to take away that relaxation piece. We still in this case had enough time to do some of that, but that again wasn't the purpose of that trip. It wasn't a relaxation trip. It was, hey, you want to go to Paris and watch the Chicago Bulls play? Okay, that sounds like fun. And then we ended up kicking it, taking over a jazz club one night, and doing some things like that. So no, it wasn't a relaxation trip. It was more of that experiential type of travel.
Mm-hmm.
So to your
Mm-hmm.
point,
John, figuring out what we're going to do for this trip. Like some people, like Erica, she travels to run marathons, right? She's all over the place,
Wow.
all over the world, running
Right.
Yep.
marathons. So of
I
course
Right.
think
her,
she's got 40 states or something.
I
She
think she's hit them all
runs
now.
different.
I think she's
Yeah,
Hmm.
pretty
crazy.
much hit them all now.
I've
But
got a couple of friends that have done that as well, and
yeah,
I think they've hit
that's
about almost
travel.
every
That
state for that. Yep.
Right. And that's energizing, that's rejuvenating to them because that's a deep passion for them, that
Hmm.
running. So there's physical exertion, they're physically tired, but they're going to be emotionally and spiritually
Right.
recharged. So,
Right.
fun. So we got to find all those ways to get at all of those pieces.
Yep. Yep. I think we've said it, but it's important to remember sometimes a trip going somewhere, flying somewhere is a way to experience travel, right? Yeah, but sometimes maybe it's just driving, getting in a car. One
Right.
of the things I wish we had a rail system in this country,
Yeah.
but the times that I've taken the train, like even to
Hmm.
Springfield, there's something really cool about just being on a train
Yeah.
Hmm.
and watching things go by.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so, yes, there's a bunch of ways you can connect and travel and get that rejuvenation that I think we all need.
I
Yeah,
totally agree.
that time I took the train to out to DC
Oh, I remember that.
to visit you,
Hmm.
John, when we were in college. One of the cool
Hmm.
things was they had one of those cars, an observation car, or something they called it,
Hmm.
where it was just,
Hmm.
it had a bit, you could go up high and it had like a clear dome kind of thing, and you could
Hmm.
really see out all over it. It was a really cool part of it,
Hmm.
you know.
I have I have friends like in the Northwest, like Oregon and Washington. They say there's a train that'll take you up there. That's like the most beautiful you'd ever see. I can imagine.
Hmm.
No, that might be something to look at, brothers. As
Hmm.
part of a next trip is how to incorporate maybe something like that in what we decide to do, just to
Mhm.
appreciate that experience of it too. So we know we now have a travel agent in the family that can help us coordinate something like that. So we definitely can try to see what we could put together as well.
Oh, definitely. She's got access to all of that. The rail packages, I saw her the other day putting together a trip for a client. They're going to Greece, they're going to other parts of Europe. And part of the stuff that she's put together are part of the trip is going to be by rail. They'll fly
Mhm.
into one city, they're going to take a train to a couple other places. Even a buddy of mine, while we were in Paris, took a train to Amsterdam for a day,
Mhm.
and then came back. So
Mhm.
that rail piece is really cool. It's a really cool way. It's one of those things. Depends on what side of the train you end up sitting on. Sometimes determines the quality of the view, though.
That's true.
Facts,
That's
facts.
true.
You got to pick the right seat sometimes.
All right, family. Well, I think we are at the end of our episode. I think we've heard some great takeaways as it relates to the importance of getting away. So, whatever that looks like, again, you've heard us say that it could be just getting outside, going for a walk. It could be hopping in the car, going for a drive, hopping on the rail, or hopping on a plane, hopping on a boat, however it means that you need to get to wherever you need to get a break from the everyday norms. That's what we're talking about. For some, it means that they like to have an agenda. For others, it means they don't want an agenda. And either way is fine as long as you're able to feel like you're able to relax, rest, rejuvenate. And remember, enjoy the experience and enjoy all that's going on around you because there is truly something good that I know you can take away from it as well. What we want to ask is, how has travel changed your perspective? Where do you want to go next? We appreciate you. We love you. And until next time, raw and refined, the gentleman's out.